This is Viewpoint with Chris Pierce. Today's program has been underwritten by Battiatio Real Estate, providing personal and professional real estate service since 1987. For all your real estate needs, call Diane Battiatio at 402-690-4769. Linda McDermitt with Fricke & Associates is an independent insurance representative helping you with personal and business insurance as well as your long-term care, life, health, and retirement needs. Come join the conversation at PoliticalInsidersReport.com, Nebraska's source for local politics. And now, here's our host, Chris Pierce.
Welcome to Viewpoint with Chris Pierce. I'm your host, Chris Pierce. I'm happy to be with you here on this beautiful Saturday morning. Of course, I'm taping on a Wednesday, so we hope it's going to be a good Saturday morning. And as I'm sure you guys are expecting, we were planning to do an immigration show today. Scheduling conflicts. We've got some great people that want to do the show, but unfortunately, scheduling, and we want to make sure we bring the best show possible. So we are planning to do that for our next show. But with us, I've got three great guests today. We're going to start with Chris Scott. He is the editor-in-chief of PoliticalInsidersReport.com, and then we'll be talking to Diane Battiatio, who's the Register of Deeds for Douglas County. We're going to be talking about a special election, not really a special election, but an unusual election that'll be coming up in 2014. And then we'll be talking with a good friend, Linda McDermitt, who is the new chairperson for the Metro Community College. And we're going to talk about, she just got in that position, and talk a little about Metro and all the different things it does. But we want to start with Chris. Chris, thanks for coming. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Chris, we've got you here today because, Mayor Stothert's been in office 30 days now.
Yeah, it's been a month.
It's been a month. The honeymoon's almost over. But we want to talk about and kind of take a look at the first 30 days, do a little comparison. I like to do some comparison compared to the subtle first 30 days. But that's kind of where I want to start off, because as I look at the two administrations, there's a lot of similarities. If you think about what's happening, and we'll take that they both start with an S out of it, we'll assume those two are the same. But think about some of the other things that are happening. We've got a car issue. We've got a budget issue.
Correct.
And we are hearing about library closings. All seem to be very similar from 4 years ago. Wouldn't you agree?
Yes, and I think the mantra for both of them are going to be what they inherited from the previous administration. Mayor Stothert, I thought, was, one of those things that you really don't know how bad things are. I thought it was an unfair criticism of Mayor Stothert when they started talking about, you were in the city council, you should have known what was there. You really don't. And I think the executive...
So you're saying, because I posed that question to Brian Baumgart a few weeks ago when I said, that was the statement made against Mayor Stothert was, well, you were on the city council, you should have known. Shouldn't we be having the same question to Jean Stothert?
I think if you were a critic of that, absolutely. But I was never critical of Stothert on that, because as a member, you're worried about it. He was first district city council person. Things are framed for you. You don't have a full picture. You're not working with your finance director hand in hand, and so you're giving things in a way that might hinder your ability to make a fully informed decision. But certainly, if someone was critical of Stothert, you can be critical of Stothert as well. I was just never that critical of Stothert because he was one of seven. I mean, you don't know everything until you're actually in that executive position.
So let's talk some of the things that she talked about in the campaign. So I want to kind of start from the beginning and go all the way through. One of the pledges she said that she's going to do, she's going to reduce the staff in the mayor's office, and she was going to reduce her own salary, and she's done both of those, hasn't she?
Yeah, but I think those are more ceremonial type things. You're talking about huge budget deficits, in my personal opinion, that it is a campaign promise, it's a fulfilled campaign promise, but we need to really meaningfully address spending and cutting your salary by 10%, although I do commend her for that, we still got a lot more to do.
So how much do you think we say, because she cut her salary by about $11,300, and now, we'll get into the car for a second, but, she bought the car, she's paying for the gas. How much do you think that saved?
I don't know necessarily how much it saved monetarily, but it certainly is a stark contrast from, there's a lot of hay made about Mayor Stothert and his big lease and the 22%. It sets the right tone, but I think where you're really going to get the savings is consolidations potentially of positions, efficiencies, and actual cuts. And these things are great, and yeah, maybe you save $12,000 to $15,000 a year, but we're talking about, depending upon the estimate, $8 to potentially $20 million deficit.
Do you think those two things, the reduction of her own salary, and she's paying for the lease, and she's paying for the gas, okay? Is she rubbing our nose in the fact that she can afford those things? I mean, that to me, it sounds, it's great that she's doing that, but she's sort of rubbing their face that she can do it.
Well,
and would that set a precedence for the next mayor? Is that person going to have to pay for their own car?
I think that would be a fair criticism if it were a Lexus or a higher vehicle, but that doesn't seem to be the case.
Right. She has a 2013 Ford Fusion Energy Hybrid.
Correct. I think both. Many politicians are very fortunate financially just because they were successful in other endeavors. Mayor Stothert was a similar. He'd have the ability, I'm sure, to finance it. So I don't. If it was like I said, a Range Rover or something of that nature, I'd be a little bit taken aback by that. But I don't perceive it that way. But perception's reality. I don't think she's rubbing it in people's faces.
So where is because one of the things that she was going to drive herself, I think she had to back up on that. Do you know where that's at now? I heard a rumor. I haven't been able to figure it out yet. But she drives her own car, but there's another car that escorts her places.
I don't know exactly the specificity of the security detail. There might be a specific. I know the governor always travels with two individuals. Right. And
Mayor Stothert did. I know Mayor Fahey did. And actually, it was their driver that was that security person for both of those administrations.
And wearing both hats seems like it's fiscally sound for all those different former mayors. I would not be entirely comfortable with the mayor of the city driving themselves. If you can save money and have your driver be the security person as well, great. I don't know where it stands right now, but there might be some security issues. We're a pretty big metropolitan area.
We are a metropolitan area.
And it's a pretty high position. So
let's talk. You mentioned deficit. On June 9th, there was a projected $16 million shortfall. 14 days later, the mayor's office reported that it's going to be $20 million shortfall. And she's saying most of it is the fire contract. She's saying there's spending that needs to be cut. But here's what concerns me is, and she said this during the campaign, I'm trying to figure out how she's going to do it. She said she wants to cut spending. She wants to make government more efficient, and she wants to hire more police officers. And they're buying new police cruisers, all that. How can we do all this with a $20 million deficit?
I think that let's be perfectly blunt, there's no way you're going to tackle a $20 million deficit in the time frame in which she has the budget. I mean, it's a very short and narrow window between when she takes office and when she has to come up for her first budget. I think the first step is to set a tone and to set an expectation with the different departments, but no one can tell me that mathematically it's possible to cut that deficit from 20 million to flat in one cycle. It's just not possible.
Well, and the county just approved their budget, and instead of my good friend PJ Morgan, I really like PJ, he said, we got to cut 1% across the board, and a number of Republicans decided to do a 1.6 cent tax increase. Well, do you think the city's on the same track?
I think on the county side it was a 4-3 vote, and I think it was Tusa and PJ Morgan
and Marion Borgeson.
And 1%. I mean, one would hope that it's reasonable to assume a 1% reduction. You just have to do it intelligently, and I think you give that responsibility to the people that can best make those decisions, the department heads. There's going to be some consternation. There's going to be some fighting, but the difference now, I think, is the departments are talking. There's an open dialogue, with the exception of perhaps fire. That's just contentious. And there seems to be a lot of bad blood in history, but it seems like the rest of the departments are at least talking. They're sharing notes, comparing notes, figuring out where these savings can occur. But if she were smart, she'd underpromise and overdeliver and just say, basically, we're not going to do this all at once, but we'll set the tone and start moving forward to having somewhat of a balanced budget.
So let's get into that. We're going to get into some of the department relationships and some other things that's happened during the first 30 days of Mayor Stothert's administration when we come right back.
Do you know about 211? It's help for an elderly relative or a troubled teen, family counseling, or job training. Instead of hunting for phone numbers, dial 211. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, talk to someone who will find the local information you need. United Way and its statewide partners want you to get connected and get answers. Dial 211 or go online at ne211.org.
Welcome back to Viewpoint with Chris Pierce. I'm your host, Chris Pierce. Speaking of library closings, we are in the Milton Abrahams Library here at 90th and Fort, and I looked at the library board report. This library's not on the list, thank goodness. But Chris, there are some libraries that were on the list from the Library Foundation, or the Library Board. Swanson, Florence, and then to close the W. Dale Clark and Millard 1 day a week. That's in order to meet some of the needs that the mayor has. That was their solutions.
It seems like
Sounds familiar.
It sounds like 2003 when they had a $13 million budget deficit, and Fahey and Mr. Festerson, I think, was on the staff, went around and basically said we're going to be closing libraries. We have to from a budgetary standpoint. I think at the end of the day, I don't think you're going to see much of a reduction in staff at the libraries. I think it's going to be minimal in terms of people's interaction and intrusion in their lives with access to libraries. It's just tough to close libraries, just like it's tough to close rural post office. That might not make sense politically.
I noticed the one big difference between 2009 and this administration. I haven't heard anything about pools. If you remember, pools were a big issue for neighborhoods.
They were.
And it was interesting that when it really got deep and things started to close, individuals stepped up.
Yes.
And pooled some money to reopen those pools, to at least get some of those libraries open part-time, because you're right, libraries are important, especially for people that don't have internet at home. This is a great way to access, especially if you're looking for a job and all sorts of things. Mm-hmm. So hopefully they're not as drastic as they said. But so let's go on to, we talked about departments and department
mm-hmm.
relationships. One of the first things that Mayor Stothert did was put out a policy, and it was named the gag order. Mm-hmm. The entire citywide.
Sure.
That no city employee could speak to the press without first going through the mayor's office. And I talked to some former chiefs of staff that you and I both know, mm-hmm. and that's never been heard of before, at least from their personal experience. Why do you think she needed? Was there a need to do that? Was she going into a pretty volatile atmosphere and environment?
I think partly it's necessitated. I vary in my opinion on this. See, in the private sector, it happens all the time. There's a protocol when you talk to the media. It's not entirely unheard of at all. But when you have a precedence in City Hall, when for many years, as you alluded to, people have the ability to speak their mind, so long as it's done in a somewhat of a professional manner and on their own time, that's fine. I think what she was trying to establish was some type of protocol, not so necessarily to gag people, but just have some, hey, this is the narrative we want to put out there.
So you don't think it was aimed toward Chief McDonald, but in the original it was all departments, and then it got out of control, and then she said, okay, it's McDonald.
I think personally there's always political motives, and people have bad blood. It was no secret that McDonald would have preferred a different mayor. Was it directly and specifically related to him? I don't know if I'd go there, but political motives always are an undertone in these types of decisions. But I think it's more about her saying, okay, this is my first foot forward, this first budget. Mm-hmm. I want to be able to control that narrative. I want to talk about the things that I think are important to cut. I don't want people going off the reservation, so to speak. Did it have a dual purpose?
But the original directive didn't speak about budget. It was anything.
Yeah.
Now it became more specific about budgetary when it came to Chief McDonald and the fire staff.
But budget was one of the first things they had to tackle. I think she got the budget. Mayor Suttle was gracious enough to give her the budget, I think 2 weeks before, right. So she could work on it with her staff. So I think that was 80% of their focus. So did they do a great job of PRing that? No.
Here's an interesting, the Omaha World Herald editorial board came out when she issued the first directive and said, because she was very big on transparency, mm-hmm. that I want to be an open government. And they said, and I thought it was a good line, it says, the mayor who campaigned on a promise of running an open administration needs to retract this gag order immediately. I thought that was a pretty strong statement from the World Herald.
Media's not happy with this. I've had numerous conversations with individuals in radio and print and TV. They're not happy with it, and I don't necessarily know if they don't necessarily like the protocol. I think it's an extra layer of work they have to do, because now, instead of reaching out to Mr. Cunningham from the planning department to get a statement, or reach out to the police department, Darcy, or whomever it might be, there's an extra step. And I think a lot of the people in the departments are erring on the side of caution and just saying, we're not going to say anything because we just don't want to get in trouble. And so I think part of theirs is frustration. I don't necessarily know if they hate there's some politics associated with, but stories have to be done fast. You don't have the luxury of calling 4 or 5 people and going back and forth. I mean, a story evolves in some cases within 30 minutes, and you might have 10 minutes to get an interview. And if they're having to go back and forth and the office isn't accessible, that's frustrating.
And I noticed in the directive, it was really strange how they put it out, that this isn't to restrict you on your personal time when you're not working. But yet, can you separate in certain positions? So let's take the fire chief or the police chief. When are they not the fire chief and the police chief?
That's a very valid point. It's difficult to make a statement about something related to your profession, particularly when you're at a level like you're the head of the union or you're head of the fire department, McDonald or LeClaire. It is tough. It's tough for them to say, this is me making my personal statement. I think it's not unreasonable to basically say not on work time, but again, the audience isn't going to differentiate between you as a private citizen and you as a representative of a union or chief. It's tough to do that. It's very tough.
So let's talk about. I think that Joe Jordan has done a piece. The battle between Mayor Stothert and Chief McDonald, who's going to come out on top. For viewers, the police chief, the city attorney, and the fire chief are exempt from what we call political appointee department heads. They can only be removed for cause. Those three positions are protected. So who's going to win that? Is McDonald going to be able to wade that water?
My hope is they both kind of lick their wounds, the campaign's over. This is my hope. This is my utopian society hope. That the campaign's over, and let's get back to the business of serving people, serving the individuals that you profess to represent, or serving the individuals that you're there to protect in the form of the fire department. But politics gets personal, and it was a very personal campaign. If you ask me to kind of put my odds on it, I would say that the police or the fire chief will probably eventually just retire, and then someone else will be appointed. Or if it gets real contentious, I'm not a big fan of setting traps for people to fail, and then I gotcha.
But I know personally that Chief McDonald loves his job. He loves being fire chief, and he's relatively young. I mean, I think he's just not coming up on 25 years, and this is the only job. I mean, he's only been a firefighter, and that's it. So, how do you think that's going to affect down the ranks? Because there's obviously, we'll pick up on this, but I want to talk about when we come back that she now has regained, the mayor's regained negotiating authority. Fire contract's coming up soon. So is the police contract as well. How does all that play? So when we come back, we're going to get into that, and then we're going to wrap up the 30 days and want to talk about some of the money that the city's committed for, in my opinion, some pretty ridiculous things, considering that we have a $20 million shortfall. But we'll be right back.
For 45 years, Family Housing Advisory Services has been improving quality of life by helping people achieve housing and financial stability. FAS prevents homelessness, educates homeowners, provides foreclosure prevention options, develops financially wise consumers, offers affordable mortgage lending options, eliminates housing discrimination, and reduces poverty. Programs and services include homebuyer education, tenant services, financial management, tax assistance, homeowner finance, and fair housing. For more information, call 402-934-7921.
Welcome back to Viewpoint at the Milton Abrahams Library here at 90th and Fort. Not a library on the closed list so far. Of course, no libraries are closing yet, but we'll wait and see. Seems like every 4 years, libraries and pools get chopped. But when we left, Chris, we started getting the fire union. That's going to be, let's put it out there. The fire union did not want Jean Stothert as mayor.
That's an understatement. Yes, I agree.
But let's talk about some of the things that's happened since she's become mayor. The city council voted 2 weeks ago to give the mayor the negotiating authority back. So now she's in charge of all labor negotiations. She's also said that she's considering on not hiring the recent fire academy. And the question that begs is, will the fire union come to the table in a year when it's contract time?
I think there's going to be a certain degree of posturing after the election. There has to be, because there was some feelings hurt. But both parties would be best served to come to the table in how willing they'd have to.
They went without a contract for 4 years.
That's true. But I think people are just upset. They're upset with this contentious relationship between public servants on both the elected side and also on the appointed or on the union side.
So who wins if if they can't get together and negotiate, who takes the fall? Is it the mayor or is it the fire union?
I think if you put odds, I think the mayor comes out on top, and I'll tell you why. Who wants to be in a loveless marriage? I mean, for 4 years, and that's effectively what this is, this loveless, contentious marriage between the fire chief and the mayor. And, you know, if the mayor really wanted to, I don't necessarily think she will, you could put somebody in a position to fail. You could set up certain parameters where you know they're not going to do it, whether it be budgetary constraints, you need to be under budget, because you alluded to this earlier, that you have to be fired with cause. Well, what's that? That's subjective. What if you're over budget? We can make arguments is, are you over budget because of the contract you negotiated? Are you over budget based on mismanagement? At the end of the day, though, the executive in this position has the ability to set up, I believe, a game in which someone could go out of bounds and potentially be let go for that. I think they'd be best served to just come together, because it doesn't play well in the media for either side. The election's over.
Let's talk. We talk about right now. We stand at a $20 million shortfall for the 2014 budget. Last fall, the city council, Mayor Stothert was on the city council, voted for a new cigarette occupation tax for the UNMC new cancer center. Mayor Stothert just came out and said she supports $6 million toward the UNO arena. Are we giving away the farm here?
I think I was very vocal on the UNMC thing. We had a state commitment. We had a commitment from the county, I think in the tune of $500,000 over a 10-year period. And now the county you just alluded to earlier is now ratcheting up taxes. And then we had a commitment on the city council side. And I think the reason it didn't go to a vote is at the end, Mulligan came to a formula that would keep it under that threshold.
$6 million,
that's stupid to give this money away. I mean, I understand the commitments, and I completely understand investments, and I understand that UNMC would be able to bring a lot of great paying trade jobs, and I get all of that. But at the end of the day, these are entities that have the ability or the capacity to raise their own money. UNMC has a huge amount of money. UNO, look at UNO. They've done an exceptional job under their new leadership with expanding through Exarban Village and the student housing, and now they have a goal of getting to about 20,000 students. They have a donor base. I think we should be the last resource. Taxpayers should be the last resource. And if you put that in the context of budget shortages, it just looks bad.
Because I guess for me, it looks as if you're going to give $6 million to UNO for a basketball arena, but my libraries are going to have to close, or something's going to have to give somewhere. Either I'm going to have to pay more in taxes, or something's going to get cut, which means, you know, planning and permitting and all those things we've had problems with. I think something's going to go on. I think we need to start prioritizing that. But let's wrap up. One more thing I want to talk to you about is Mayor Stothert was in North Omaha a couple weeks ago. Didn't get the most rousing reception, I think, that she expected. Why do you think that happened?
Well, the individual that was heckling her is an individual that's heckled me on many occasions too. I know her well, and
as do many of us. God love her. She's got passion.
I think that the takeaway from that is, you know, one of the criticisms of Suttles I heard a lot from community leaders is he'd be there for ribbon cuttings, elections, but there really wouldn't be an access. I think what the people in North Omaha really gravitated towards in terms of an issue, and why a lot of them like Nabity, whether they voted for Nabity or not, it remains to be seen, is that police auditor issue. For whatever reason, that is a big issue for them.
And he's the only one that supported it.
He was the only one.
In this primary.
And well, actually, Ben Gray, I was at a forum one time, and Ben Gray came out and said, you know what, I want that so long as it's part of the city charter. So therefore, a mayor that gets mad at the person can't remove that person without cause, because you can budget it out. And Ben Gray was actually at a forum when he said that, but that's what they want. They want more oversight. They don't want a panel of people, a toothless panel of people that kind of maybe sort of will do the right thing, but there's really no power to do the right thing. They just want a layer of oversight. Now, I know Tristan Bond, the former police auditor, well. She is an individual that's controversial, and maybe she is or isn't the right person for that, but there's got to be a level of oversight with teeth there. And I think that's a big issue.
I do think Mayor Stothert was kind of hinting toward more of a community review board, where it's not just one person, it's a group of people, which I think may be a better solution than having just one person. So, Chris, I want to thank you for coming in, and maybe at the 6-month anniversary we'll have you back. But I just thought it was striking that there's a lot of similarities between the start of the Suttles campaign and the start of the Stothert campaign.
Thanks for having me.
When you both got a vehicle problem, you know it's politics. But we'll be right back, and we'll be talking to Diane Battiatio.
50 years! The Boys and Girls Club of the Midlands.
I've been helping kids like me.
Like me.
Like us. For just $30 a year, I can get
A healthy meal.
Homework help. Exercise.
a safe place to stay after school every day. At one of our 8 clubs. My name is Janelle.
And I am the Boys and Girls Club.
The Boys and Girls Club. We are the Boys and Girls Club!
Like us on Facebook at BGC Midlands. Cox will donate $1 to the Boys and Girls Club.
We began Viewpoint Television with the mission of providing our community with something that has been missing, a public affairs and educational program on the issues important to Nebraska and Omaha, while at the same time providing a platform for all points of view that are well articulated by the experts and advocates. We are a community partner. We use our broadcast time for public service announcements from community service and nonprofit organizations like the Girl Scouts, 211, the Boys and Girls Club, the Boy Scouts, Family Housing Advisory Services, and Midwest Ovarian Cancer Association. We tackled the real issues facing our community: gun control, immigration, the Keystone XL pipeline, NSA wiretapping, and voting rights. Soon we will take you to some of our historic neighborhoods like Benson, Dundee, and South Omaha to show you the exciting things happening in our city. But we could not have done any of this without the great Viewpoint Television underwriters. On behalf of the entire Viewpoint team, I'd like to thank Battiatto Real Estate, Fricke & Associates, and Political Insiders Report. Without their continued support, we could not be here with you this morning. We are grateful for our partnership with the City of Omaha, our underwriters, and our community partners. We can do so much more if we had your help. Viewpoint Television is a Nebraska nonprofit corporation, and we've recently filed for our tax-exempt status with the IRS, so your contribution could be tax deductible. We are currently planning for our new studio and equipment so that we can increase our ability to bring the issues in a more timely manner, and we are working with the City of Omaha to provide Viewpoint Television live. So join the Viewpoint team and become an underwriter. You can become a giver of a single gift or a monthly supporter. For more information on how you or your company can support Viewpoint Television, call the number on the screen or send us an email. We would be more than happy to sit down with you and share with you more about Viewpoint Television.
The Midwest Ovarian Cancer Association mission is to support women diagnosed with ovarian cancer, to educate the public about the disease, and to support research. Currently, most women diagnosed with ovarian cancer have advanced disease and require prolonged medical treatment. Our goal at MOCA is to see fewer women diagnosed in advanced stages and to assure all women the availability of support and access to information. Please support these efforts by liking us on Facebook.
Welcome back to Viewpoint. We are with our good friend Diane Battiatto. She's the Douglas County Register of Deeds. Yeah, when I heard that the first time, I had no idea. So she's going to fill us in what the heck that job does. But she's also going to talk about a election that we had last November and how that affects an election we're going to have in just over a year from now. Diane, welcome to Viewpoint.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me. I'm fine.
So,
I'm doing very well.
I happened to be listening to the radio yesterday.
You were.
And you sort of made an announcement. You want to make it official on TV now?
Well, you know, I could possibly do that, and in the course of the conversation, maybe something will come out.
We can go to commercial, it doesn't matter.
We go to commercial? Well, we are going to have a special election. It's not a special election, right, but in the 2014 election cycle will be an unusual piece on the ballot that will consolidate the Register of Deeds and Assessor's offices. The voters voted last November to consolidate these two offices, and the voters have spoken, so we are going forward in a progressive manner. And I've received my assessor certificate and done some...
And that's required to even be
And that is
assessor,
required,
right?
yes, to even run for an assessor. Not even to be one, but even to run for it. So that, along with my 27 years as a real estate broker and my 13 years in the Register of Deeds office, I feel like I can do a lot of good in running for the combined office and prevail.
So let's talk about, what does the Register of Deeds do? I mean, we know what a deed is. But what does your office do for the county, for the taxpayer?
The Register of Deeds office in every county is the official record keeper of every document that's connected with real property, whether it be a piece of land, a homestead, a residential, a commercial site, any property within Douglas County. We are responsible to basically, the easiest understandable is to be the librarian of all that information and create a history track of everything that has gone on within that property. And our records go back to 1854 with the beginning of Douglas County's homesteads, and we probably have millions, probably 18, 20 million documents in our library that we are responsible to keep in proper order, preservation, and accessible for the public.
So is there a reason that I would need the register? I mean, who do you cater to? Who uses the Register of Deeds office? Well,
the primary users of our office are title companies, real estate attorneys, anybody who has a connection with doing a job for you, a homeowner or a potential homeowner. As we all know, many homeownership is the most desirable piece of our economy, and it's the most important piece of our economy. Land ownership is the foundation of our entire country. But none of us really use the office on a singular basis. When you buy a home, when you sell a home, you have your real estate agent, you have your title person, you have your lender, everyone working for you for that transaction. They are the ones who utilize the Register of Deeds office to enable you as the potential new property owner or seller to have the most complete documented paperwork for the public records.
So in your office is where potential liens are identified, what special assessments, all that kind of goes into our property record.
Exactly.
So that, because you can't buy a house if it's got a lien on it.
Exactly.
Or you can't sell a home if you still got a lien on it.
Exactly.
So if someone were to file a lien, it's through your office.
Definitely.
Okay.
Whether it be construction liens, any type of non-payment, or documenting the initial payment. When you get a loan, that mortgage is going to be recorded to say, okay, Chris Pierce has bought this property, we have a deed, and they all go in order. The deed creates your ownership, your mortgage creates the loan on your property. The release of that mortgage tells the world on that property that you've paid off your loan. So it's a sequence of events for every homeowner of every property.
So let's go back. Of course, the people voted on this last November. Can you take us back? How did this become? Why all of a sudden there was an idea to combine these two offices? I mean, do you guys do similar jobs? I mean, why your office and Roger Morrissey, who is the county assessor, why not your office and Tom Cavanaugh, the city clerk and comptroller? Why these two offices? What was the thought behind that?
Well, unfortunately, my opinion, there was no thought behind it. Otherwise, we wouldn't be in this situation. The county board, of course, is always looking for ways to streamline county government, as in thinking that it might save money. Years ago, the clerk's office was responsible as the tax update screen, which brought all the offices, the Register of Deeds, which is the first leg of the taxation process with home ownership, the assessor's office, which only takes those title transfers only and gives them assessments for valuation, which the treasurer office then collects the taxes. Okay. The clerk's office, there are three distinct jobs. Okay. None of the three overlap each other. None of the three have any type of duplication of process. The process in each office is significantly
but
just
it's
for that
all three offices within that process, so why didn't we merge all three offices? Well, if they're all linked in that particular process with taxation.
One of the reasons that none of them should have been consolidated is because it eliminates checks and balances. One of the positives you have of having different offices is that if you have the register of deeds that creates the official record, you have the assessor who values those properties, and you have the treasurer who receives the taxes. If there's any problems with any segment of that process, you can always go back to the previous office and iron out the issue. Okay, we collected taxes on a certain property, we sent that tax statement to the wrong person. Well, then they can backtrack to the official record and say, well, our records, here's the official record, here's the document of who the owner is. Somewhere along the line it got confused and the wrong person received the tax statement. So that means the correct person didn't receive a tax statement, and they're not paying taxes because they've never received any tax statement. The person who received it incorrectly, they're just going to ignore it. That's not my property.
All right, well, when we come back with Diane, we're going to find out what Diane's got plans for the assessor, because if you're going to take over another office, because you'll keep your registered deeds office and you're going to take on more responsibility, let's find out what Diane's got planned for the assessment. And I'm also real estate background, so we'll have some questions there as well when we come right back.
The Midwest Ovarian Cancer Association mission is to support women diagnosed with ovarian cancer, to educate the public about the disease, and to support research. Currently, most women diagnosed with ovarian cancer have advanced disease and require prolonged medical treatment. Our goal at MOCA is to see fewer women diagnosed in advanced stages and to assure all women the availability of support and access to information. Please support these efforts by liking us on Facebook.
Welcome back to Viewpoint. We got to do some outtakes because the conversations between takes is amazing with this group. So you talking on me? Anyway, inside joke. We'll figure it out later. Let's talk about, we talked off air about timeline, because you know what? You brought up a good point that that happened really, really fast from the time that the county board decided they were going to do this. And I think you can explain to us that there really isn't a plan either, is there?
No, there's not a plan. And if we backtrack a little on the timeline, is that a lot of consumers in our area, they think that when they voted on that in November, it was a done deal. And there's people that says, well, what's going on now that you're merged? Well, we're not merged yet. It's status quo, business as usual. Because there's no duplication of process, the process in the register of deeds is still going full force. The processing in the assessor is still going for full force.
So really the merge, so you guys are two separate offices. Nothing even starts to be merged until I think November 6, 2014, when one officer comes out.
Actually, when the prevailer of the 2014 election is noted, then January of 15 is when the office will officially be consolidated.
And there's no plans to start that process beforehand.
Well,
for whoever ends up being in that office.
Well, Chris, there really isn't an opportunity to do that because there's no overlap or any duplication, and both of the offices being led by elected officials, we each have our own workflow. So there's really no way my ideas on what I feel should be consolidated, as if there's anything, maybe the phones or something like that, versus what Mr. Morrissey's maybe won't make any sense, and it won't make a difference once whoever prevails gets into office, because it'll be a whole new ballgame.
So are you saying really, even operationally, those two offices, they really can't merge?
Well, they really can't, and we were talking about that yesterday, even about, well, maybe the receptionist, the phone people. Well, I don't know how the phones work in the assessor's office. I know our office, the phone calls we get are basically real estate record questions. I filed a mortgage on this date, it's released, has it been on record? So all of my staff who works on the phones, which we are all cross-trained, so they all are educated on doing that, they have to know how to even look up a document, look at the history screen, know the answer to that person's questions, if it's at all possible for us to answer. The assessor is going to field calls on, I'm upset about my valuation, I want to protest it, I found this on your website and it's not correct. I mean, I don't know what all is involved with their phone system. So not having duties related or records related to each other, there's really no way we can even start the simplest process of coming to an agreement or a decision on what might be working together.
And I don't want to get into this because I want to get into what kind of some of your plans as the next assessor is, but I did want to mention that Lancaster County went through this process, yes, and it really hasn't been the best thing for them. They're really, from some of the information that I've read, there really hasn't been the great cost savings they expected, and things like that. And I mean, we could go on and on, but really that has it won't do us any good
No.
because it's a done deal now.
It's a done deal.
So let's transfer. It's a done deal. The office will be merged. What are your plans? The Register of Deeds office, you know that, like the back of your hand. What kind of things can you see that you could make the assessor's office better than it is now? Why should you be the next, basically, assessor, because you're already the Register of Deeds?
Well, what I think gives me an advantage is, number one, we've worked for 9 years to completely restructure the Register of Deeds office and streamlining the process, improving the customer service, growing information on our website. All of those things are very good, and cross-training my staff. So as this being a very well-working machine in the Register of Deeds office, I feel like after January of 15, when I become the assessor, Register of Deeds assessor, and that's another thing we want to touch on. There's no name to the office yet coming up.
So you don't even know what office
we don't even know what office we're running for. The county board, that's their responsibility to title the office the name that's going to be on the ballot. They're knee-deep in budget right now, so they weren't even going to address it until after their budget cycle.
So we could have campaign signs, Diane Battiatto with a big question mark.
With a big question mark. Just vote for me.
Just vote Battiatto.
Just vote Battiatto.
Okay.
But anyway, what I see happening, and I feel very comfortable, and I'm very, very eager for the challenge, is that with my knowledge of the historical documents and the first leg in the property records recordings, I can take that and I can grow with streamlining and creating more efficiencies in the assessor's office, because my office is well operating. So I won't have the burden of knowing what my office is doing, because it will be pretty much running. I can take those same ideas as far as streamlining, cross-training, and creating more efficiencies in the assessor's office, and not have to worry about my office functioning. So I will be able to spend 100% of the time after I get elected in creating those efficiencies in the assessor's office. That may not be the case in reverse, because of the fact that you have to have the knowledge, the recording knowledge, to even be able to know how to go forward with the assessment process.
So I haven't heard an official word, but I'm going to assume that Roger Morrissey, the current assessor, is going to run for re-election. You are both of the same party. You're both Democrats, so you sort of have two hurdles. You've got a primary if he's the only other Democrat, but then you also are going to have a general election, and you're not used to that. You've actually, no one's really wanted to mess with you because you've not had a challenger for a number of years, which is a testament to the job you're doing, and we can say the same thing for Roger, because he hasn't had. So this is going to be an interesting couple of races. Is there anything that you can think of that the county board, or because again, I don't think the educational piece for the public on the merge was well done. Mm-hmm. Do you see that there's going to be an effort to try to help educate people what's going to be happening at 14?
Well, if there's going to be an educational effort, I would be more than glad to have that done and participate in that. I would love to have, town hall meetings or neighborhood associations and give my viewpoint, no pun intended, on the whole process, and pretty much market myself on. First of all, I thoroughly love my job. And we've done a very good job in the last 9 years, and that's not to fluff my pillow, but in reality, that's what's been happening. We've turned us into a very well-oiled machine, and there needs to be more equity, I think, built into the assessment process, especially with commercial areas. From the conversations I've had, that's not to say that anyone is doing a poor job, but I think there needs to be efficiencies and more streamlining built into that. And I'd like to get that message out to different associations.
And it's important because you did mention it's not just residential property, it's also commercial apartments and businesses of that sort. Diane, thank you for coming. We really appreciate that.
Thank you, Chris.
Well, we're going to have you back because this is an interesting race. It's something that we've never done before. And Diane Battiatto, she is the Douglas County Register of Deeds, and in 2014 she'll be running for whatever the new combined office name is. And of course, we'll extend an invitation to Mr. Morrissey as well. But when we come back, we're going to have our good friend Linda McDermitt, who I mistakenly gave her the wrong title, but we'll clear that up in a minute. We'll be right back.
50 years!
The Boys and Girls Club of the Midlands.
I've been helping kids like me.
Like me.
Like us.
For just $30 a year, I can get
A healthy meal.
Homework help. Exercise.
a safe place to stay after school every day. At one of our 8 clubs.
My name is Janelle.
And I am the Boys and Girls Club.
The Boys and Girls Club. We are the Boys and Girls Club! Like us on Facebook at BGC Midlands. Cox will donate $1 to the Boys and Girls Club.
To Viewpoint, we want to thank Chris Scott and Diane Battiatio for being part of the show. We've got a new guest, our good friend Linda McDermitt, and I messed up on her title. I gave her a few extra weeks. But she is on the Metro Community College Board, and starting August 1st, she will be the chairperson of that board. Linda, welcome.
Thank you, Chris. Thanks for having me. I've done great things. Very busy.
You're stepping up, huh?
Well,
Head honcho?
I am.
And get free tuition?
No.
We need a new guest.
Yes.
So tell us about Metro Community College.
Well, Metro Community College is in a very exciting phase. We are stepping into a very large capital campaign. We need to build some new trade buildings, which will be moving a lot of our trades from scattered locations into one location, and that takes dollars. And we also are going to be finishing out some of our building at the Elkhorn Valley campus, which we've been waiting to get done, possibly putting some new things there, talking about a park and ride with the Metro Transit system, which would be great for that community.
How many students do you have at Metro?
Well, we right now are at about 42,000, our highest of 2 years.
And has less than 20, correct?
True.
Wow. Okay.
We are the second largest district in the state of Nebraska, OPS system being the largest.
Student number.
Student numbers.
Now, and you're the largest community college district in the state, correct?
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Yes, we are.
So I know you've got a map. What is Metro Community College? What areas is that?
Well, we cover Washington County, Douglas County, Sarpy County, and Dodge County. And in those 4 counties, we have 10 education locations. So we have an express campus, which is on 24th and Vinton, which we opened a year and a half ago, which has been a wonderful process and a very successful adventure. We have the Applied Technology Systems, which is out by Irvington, where we teach CDL, we teach OPPD, line pole guys and gals, and the other locations then are a little bit centralized in regards to what is at their campus, but they're also more broad at those campuses, so that students don't have to drive clear across the whole state or the whole city of Omaha in order to get all their classes in. That's why we're going through this new project, because we have some students at the Elkhorn Valley campus that are doing their heating and air conditioning, but they need to have a course that's at the Fort Omaha campus in that process.
Oh, okay.
Because we do what's called a STEM teaching, where we are teaching the sciences, the technology, the engineering, and the math, all along with their doing their trade training for air conditioning, for heating, for plumbing, electrical, etc. So it is we need to centralize that a little bit, because we also teach the GED. If a student comes in, does not have their high school diploma, they will have their high school diploma. If they're not speaking English fluently or cannot read it, we will be teaching second language.
Okay.
We then teach them the trades. And today, you have to have technology with all the trades, because there's little computers and everything.
Right. And I know that some UNO students take classes at Metro that transfer back to UNO.
Yes.
Is that as diverse as I think, or is that kind of limited because Metro Community College is more focused on trades training?
Well, actually Metro is very broad.
Okay.
We teach everything in English and maths and sciences, as well as financial services and real estate classes, and as well as all the trades. So you can go to Metro and get all of your pre-core courses for any degree that you would want to transfer those credits to. We are now capable of transferring credits to any university in the United States.
Okay.
So you could come to Metro, do 2 years and get your associate's degree, and then transfer to the new business system at UNO and get your bachelor's in a lot less time.
So let me ask you this. What do you say when people compare Metro Community College with ITT Tech or with some of these other for-profit trade schools? How does that make you guys feel when you hear those comparisons?
Well, we understand that it's not a good comparison.
Okay.
Number one, we're going to cost a lot less to get the education to the student. What we teach has a lot more variety to it at Metropolitan Community College because we are a larger school. We have more offerings to do than what some of the isolated for-profit schools do. They do specific things. We do nursing programs, we do medical records programs, we do EMTs, we do a very, very large base. We have 125 associate degree programs. And most other schools that are not a university system do not have near that.
What do you see your demographics for Metro? I mean, is it typical college student age, or are you seeing pretty much across the gamut, maybe second careers, maybe retirees that just want to learn to do something new? I mean, are we seeing a broad spectrum of students, or?
We do. Our average student is a 27-year-old female single mom. That's our average student. We have students from ages of 16. We have a lot of children that come in while they're freshmen through senior years in high school and take extra courses, and that gets them ready for that college degree. A lot less expensive. Mom and Dad really like that idea, and the student likes it in the end because now with the student loans being expensive, for the student receiving it, it's not possible to start a intern position and have $25,000, $30,000 of debt to go along with it. So coming to Metro does cut that back considerably. Our students are every age of 18 to 80. As you've probably seen one of our commercials, the lady is 83 years old.
And that's an actual student?
Yes, she is. All the people in our commercials and advertising are actual people that come from either somebody off the street, which one gentleman was, or they actually work at the school, or they are a student. If they're portraying a student, they are the student. If they're portraying the dean, they're the dean.
Okay.
We don't use any actors.
Okay.
And well, we had graduations in April, May, and for the students. We do associate degrees as well as GED graduations. We had a couple of GED graduation, and I'm waiting to hear the background story. The gentleman was in a wheelchair, and he looked like he was probably in his 70s. His wife was walking behind him. They both got their GEDs, and she said to me as I shook her hand, she says, "Oh, by the way, I am 7 years older than he is."
All right, well, when we come back, we want to talk about, because actually Linda's position, it's an elected position. She's elected as a Metro Community College board member. Then I want to talk about her new job coming up as the chairperson of that board. So we'll be right back.
My son, the Cub Scout, helped raise money to make camping safer.
My son, the Cub Scout, stood up to the school bully.
My son, the Cub Scout, volunteers at the homeless shelter.
My sons, the Boy Scouts, helped clean up after the devastating flood.
My son, the Eagle Scout, helped save a man's life.
My sons, the Eagle Scouts, are defending our nation.
My son, the Eagle Scout, became a doctor,
civil engineer,
police chief,
wonderful husband and father,
state senator,
JoinScouting2012.org.
Welcome back to Viewpoint with our good friend Linda McDermitt. She is a board member on the Metro Community College Board. And Linda, you gave us a great, you really opened my eyes about all the different things that Metro Community College can offer. I mean, it's everything.
It is.
I think it's great. And there's a lot of plans to expand and to grow. I will say this, your Culinary Institute is wonderful.
Yes.
It's at the Fort Omaha campus.
It's Fort Omaha.
It is wonderful. It's student ran. The food is wonderful. I would encourage you guys to go up there. Do you need a reservation to go?
Sometimes you do in the evening. Lunches you do not need reservations, and it's amazing food.
The managers are students. They're learning hotel hospitality. The chefs, the wait staff, they go through. It's wonderful. I would encourage you guys to go. But let's talk about, we left that you're an elected official.
Yes, I am.
You have to run for office.
Yes.
And your office is non-compensated, true. So you're basically, you do a big job for free. Thank you.
Exactly.
Thank
You're
you very
welcome.
much. You're not like a county board member who gets $30,000 a year.
No.
So tell us some of the responsibilities you have, and let's then get into some of these new responsibilities you're going to be having. So what do you do as a board member?
Well, as a board member, there are 11 board members, and 10 of us represent a district. There's 2 from each district, and there's 5 districts, and you have 1 at large. And representing my district means that I listen to my constituents. I listen to the people in my district of what their problems are, what their concerns are, or what their joys are, of what they're complementary to Metro Community College most all the time. We don't get much complaints these days. And our job as a board member is to create policy with procedures, and we let the school do the operating of that policy and procedure to get the best education possible for the least dollar to our students. So we hire and fire the president of the college. From that point on, his staff takes over to take care of all of the workings of teaching. We as policymakers make sure that we are paying attention to the diversities, the qualities, the practices that we want to have available to the students to be able to benefit them. And we're so fortunate. We have great staffing, we have a wonderful adjunct system, and we have instructors that are so forward-thinking outside of the box. They actually come up with ways to create an English classroom that is like being in a business office.
Now, would a comparison for your board be the Board of Regents for UNO, or for the University of Nebraska, which is also an elected official?
It would be similar.
Similar, okay.
Similar. We don't, the Board of Governors for MCC, we are not directly concerned with raising funding.
Okay.
We control and manage grants, but we have another arm, the Metro Community College Foundation, and they are there to help get scholarships awarded, get scholarship money, to help also acquire funding for new structures, new building. We don't build anything that we can't pay for.
So how does your job and responsibility change now that you, August 1st, correct?
1st.
August 1st, you will become the new chairperson of the board. How does your job differ? What more responsibility do you now have?
Well, then as the chair, I will be working more directly with the president and with the president of the foundation. I will be more involved in working with certain projects that, and part of them are my own personal interest. The Building and Sites Committee is my baby, so to speak, because I want to see these buildings get done, and we need them done quickly because we are running out of room for our welders, for example. And in doing that, I also become a little more responsible with what comes to the agenda for the board to follow. I have to listen to all the other board members because they have certain concerns and positions that they want to see accomplished as well. So it's a listening process as well as a directing, and just creating some leadership that moves us forward in conjunction with what the school is designed to do with our mission and our master plan.
So as a volunteer, you just decided to take on more work. Congratulations.
Yes.
I want to thank Linda, thank you for coming by. We learned a lot, and I would encourage you guys to look into Metro. Just if you want to learn something or whatnot, it's not, you don't have to apply to college.
No.
You just
photography.
Yeah, so a lot of different things, and we'll put a website up for you guys so you can learn more about Metro, maybe find something you can enjoy. So I want to thank our guests, Chris Scott, Linda McDermitt, and Diane Battiatto, and hopefully next time when we see you, we will be doing our immigration show. So until next time, have a great day.